Welcome back, everyone. This week, a new week and a new project. So I am going to go ahead and make some new trim. I'm trimming out the new attic access right now with 4 pieces of 1x3, and I'm cutting them at 45s so that I can put them together and they'll look good. I'm cutting them with that pull saw, one I get a lot of use out of. It gets a nice clean cut. And then later in this episode we will take these and router them. So I cut some short ones. Now I'm actually moving on to the red oak. I got some red oak for the window seals, and that a minute ago was me realizing that I don't have enough material to finish this job. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the first one out anyway. So I have to notch out the corners of these so that they sit inside the window, and then the outside wings kind of sit outside of the window, and make a nice solid window seal. The ones that were there before were all rotted out. These pieces of wood kind of take the most abuse. And I thought I wanted something nice and firm, nice and solid, so that's why I went with this hardwood, this red oak. Although I have to say, when I'm doing this crosscut like this, it is quite difficult to keep the saw straight through the grain, so that was a bit of work. But went to the store, got another piece of wood, and I'm going to repeat the same process here for the second one. I've got 2 windows to do this for, so it's a lot of cut, and cut. Once we get these all cut up, we're going to test fit them, and oh, there we go. Now we got a new board, and we're going to cut, and we're going to cut. So this is actually the second one for the window that you see over to your left. I did the window over to your right first. And, we're going to notch both sides, and this is about the time I realized that, yes, I make mistakes too. Fortunately, I cut it too long, and so I was able to just remove a little more material. And we're good to go. Test fit was successful. Now I'm laying out the upper trim because I am going to router a bevel into the upper trim. It's just like a 1x2 basically, and so I wanted it to look a little nicer. We picked out a router bit at the store for all of our trim that we're going to use to match everything up. I'm going to also put that bevel on the bottom side of the window seals. So here I am. I'm actually going to set this up on the porch on a nice cold day. It was about 20 degrees outside this day, but this router makes a lot of dust, a lot of sawdust, and so it was worth it for me to work outside. So simple setup here. I'm just going to clamp things to my table here and get going with the router. That's a Ryobi plunge router. I've had it for a long time. Works great. At this point I realized that I'm cutting into my plywood, so I moved my project onto the 1x4 strip so that my bit could hang over and not cut anything that I didn't want it to. Now, I will say these routers, they want to cut in a specific direction, and so you'll see me typically push that direction to cut, and then I find it works just fine to pull back and to do the smooth the cutout. So you'll see me go to the end of the board here, and I'm going to push forward the way the saw likes to cut, and then I'm going to pull back to clean that cut. And so it's a lot of boards to go around the entire room. It's quite a bit of material, so I got a bit of work cut out for me, but this router really makes pretty short work of things. It would be a little faster if I had set up a jig, probably. I may do that next time. This time I'm just routering half the board at a time with the double clamp system to keep it in place. And that worked just fine. Although you'll see it did move around on me a bit. Now, this is old wood. When I pulled the wood off the ceiling, it was had caulked to the ceiling, and that actually broke out one corner of the wood. And so that's why I'm making sure to turn all the wood upside down actually in the room, and so that way I'm routering off that broken section. So it just kind of worked out that I wanted to router these anyways, and I was able to remove the broken part of the wood, and now it all looks great once I get done routering it, that is. This is all old pine, and so it routers pretty easy. Other than that, yeah, this is pretty straightforward stuff. I actually enjoy working with the router. I don't really know why. There's something satisfying about cutting a nice pattern in a piece of wood and just cutting it so fast. I mean, this thing just works so fast. But you can start seeing the sawdust as it piles up there. It's a lot of sawdust. So I believe we're done with the top trim. I'm going to brush the sawdust off, taking the time inside, and here we are. And so now I'm putting that same bevel on the outside of all of the attic pieces. So the attic is basically a rectangle, and all the trim facing out is going to be beveled, like the top trim and like the bottom of the window trim. And then you'll see in a few minutes here, I'm actually going to, when I get done with all this, I'm going to swap my bit out and use a quarter round bit on the other side. So that way when I'm getting in and out of the attic, it's kind of, softer. There's no hard edges, and it's just way more comfortable, if you ask me, to work with. I am being careful on all the end of the pieces not to go around the corner, except for these window seal pieces that I'm doing now, the red oak, and you will see me go around the corner because that's an exposed edge right there. I'm going around the corner. And routers work great going around corners, especially these ones. I'm using router bits with a bearing on the end, so you just pull it to the wood and it cuts the same depth once you get your actual depth set right. So now I'm going to change bits out for the quarter round, and I had a little visit for the neighbor. One of those things when you work out on the porch and make a heck of a lot of noise, sometimes the neighbors come and say hi, but he's a nice guy, and he didn't stay too long. He's a really nice guy. I like seeing him. So I futzed around with getting my depth right, and I actually set the depth a hair too low when I routed these red oaks, which was okay because it actually gave me a bevel line, and then I just kind of sanded it down later, and at the end I actually like the look, so I'm actually it was a happy accident. And I'll mirror that on the next one I do. So the other thing, I was surprised with this red oak for how hard it is to work by hand. This router and these sharp bits just tore right through it. I mean, it just ate it right up. And I kind of anticipated that out of the bevel bit because it's very new, but this quarter round bit has many, many, many miles on it, and I was just really pleasantly surprised how well it ripped through that red oak and made a nice looking edge. So here we are, quarter round in the back, the inside of the attic pieces, just for comfort's sake, and it kind of makes them look like store-bought trim, actually, even though that I started with just a dimensional 1x3. So just about done here, and then we can go ahead and move this inside this project just in time for the rain. So I lucked out. It's actually just starting to rain right now, so I was able to get cleaned up without my gear getting wet and move back inside after I set the porch up for, Sunday coffee. Why not? So can't forget to sand. Those routers do a pretty good job, but you're going to still have little burrs you want to knock off, and make sure you clean all the sawdust off. And occasionally you might roll over an end or something. You need to kind of straighten it out a little bit. So also the ceiling trim was old wood, and so it had some nicks and things that I wanted to straighten out. The red oak was a bit of work to sand as well, just because it's pretty tough wood and takes a little bit more elbow grease. So here I am working on one of those pieces, and like I said earlier, I also overcut the quarter round, and it gave me one bevel on top, and so I like the look, but I want to sand the sharp edge off because I'm like that. I don't like to feel sharp edges when I touch things like window seals. So a little work now and a way better enjoyment in the future. So now I'm also going to scrape all of the window trim, the original trim I'm putting back on. So a little scrape with the scraper here just to get any loose paint off, any chips and things. And Rosalie's home. And then I actually switched to time-lapse mode in the camera here because it takes up way less data. But here we go. We're going to take the mud there and we're going to fill in any screw holes and things in this trim. So I don't know, I like using mud. I just use one product for everything. And then you got to fill the holes, just like filling the screw holes in sheetrock. You fill them once, let them dry, they'll sink in. Fill them again, let them dry, scrape them off, fill them one more time, and they'll be nice and smooth when they dry after a little bit of sanding. Really, if you work them right the first time, you don't require much sanding. And we finally get to start painting. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a like and subscribe if you did, and hope to catch you next time.